people that are looking for a career and opportunity to expand their knowledge. So, because we never have enough jobs to employ everybody on reserves. We got to train them so that they're prepared to go out in the world and earn themselves a good living.
How many people live in Cowessess?
We have 920 to 950. But we probably would have about 2,000 if we had enough resources for people that wanted to move home.
Yeah.
Our lack of housing and lack of just infrastructure. So we have about 920 currently. We constantly, like, our housing waiting list is about 200 people. We just don't have the resources.
And the chief has 3 houses. You learned that from the Blackstone.
Yeah. That's an internal chief joke. So we have 920 that live, 1,300 that live in Regina. We have more that live in Regina. And back to our 95 that we fund in university. When we were doing an understanding of who we fund through our treaty right to education, majority were social workers in education, somewhere in business. And so now we're looking to build capacity. We want our own people to run a place like this.
Right.
We have 0 engineers and 0 scientists right now in school. So now we're starting to bring our students here to show them. And then we're telling them, we need you to go to university so you can go get an engineering science degree. So you can run this place for us. Right now we have a really nice partnership with Saskatchewan Resource Council. Our relationship is amazing, like many other relationships. But as we grow, we don't want to just grow in our assets, but we also want to grow in our capacity.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, it's interesting time with this, and that's something. I'll just hand it over to Jessica if there was no comments or questions, just because kind of more of our logistics lead in all of this.
Yeah, maybe just one comment, Chief, before we get into Jessica's presentation. We have a K-12 school at home, and this year I just heard them talking that we have potentially 17 graduates, K-12 graduates.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's up significantly from past years.
Yeah,
Usually below 10, anyways.
I think last year we had 6, I think. So
Yeah.
Big change.
And is that because they're kids that would have been in that age cohort, but they didn't finish high school, or just that there weren't kids going into?
There just weren't kids coming to our school.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we really revamped our whole education system and hired required teachers rather than.
Oh, it's really, congratulations.
Oh,
That's
thank
an
you.
accomplishment.
Just add to it. You get a fixed floor amount funding for education in First Nations.
Yeah.
And when you stay within that fixed, it just sets you up for failure. And so when we got elected, we took our own source dollars, like dollars we're making revenue, profit from these, and we invested into our school, so we actually put our own dollars into it. But you also got a leadership that is very education pro. Not everybody has the degrees and the masters, but everybody has an understanding that we must invest in our education.
Yes. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but you said that when this project got going, you were at university. So where did you go to university?
I went to First Nations University of Canada. I got my undergrad there in business.
Yeah.
Beautiful place. I bring that Indigenous pride because of that place. I wear my braid in honor because of that place. So not only taught me the tools in education, but also the pride of being Indigenous.
Yeah.
Then I got my master's in public policy because I kind of knew I wanted to be a chief by then. But I wanted to know both sides of the coin. I wanted to know bureaucracy and Indigenous governance. So sometimes Councillor Rook says my nose grows, but it's just because I have so much to say sometimes.
And so where did you do your master's?
At the Johnson Chiama School of Public
I
Policy.
just was there.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, yeah, really amazing. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, well, the problem is that's the problem with succeeding in a Western values school of education. You're bound to have your nose grow sometime.
She even verified. One last thing, and I know it's kind of turning towards a story of me, but I want to move it to Jessica. But I grew up on Cowessess. It takes a community to raise a child, and I have 4 nicknames at home. Rook has funny stories of me as a kid, and to come home and be a chief now, it's that's what generations, really impactful. I left to get educated to come back home, so it really makes that difference. I find anyways.
The tradition from Alo and settler culture in where I live, we always do this. It's an automatic thing, so I don't know if you'd recognize it, but Coast Salish nations always raise hands in honor. So I raise my hands to you, I should go see them.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So yes, I'll turn it over to Jessica, and if you want to talk about the logistics before we
Sure.
go outside, yeah.
Yeah. Do we want me to? Well, I can do a little bit in here, and then we can head out. I can add to it. So, so just I guess fundamentally, because you are part of the, I guess the federal government
Yes.
is, we couldn't have done these projects without the support of the federal government of Canada. And so it really boils down to, in a message I'll leave with you, and I think that you can depart here today, is the importance of providing access to First Nation communities who are seeking to be part of the renewable energy sector, additional supports. So I'll just kind of go back to when we did the wind turbine and the batteries together. That total project was just over $6 million. 75% of that was funded grant funding that was non-repayable. So we were required to contribute 25% of our own money, which we did through some trust funds that Cowessess had. But the other 75%, 50% was from Natural Resources Canada, and the other 25% was through the Provincial Go Green Fund, which is no longer in existence. But the big component of the project, why we got funded, is these are commercial assets that in any other business would go to develop them. You go build your own turbine and you connect to the SAS Power grid, that's a business case, you go do it. But for us, the uniqueness was, A, we didn't have the capital to do that. B, we wanted to garner federal attention. And so the way to do that was by creating a research and development project and by creating some intellectual property between the algorithms that are actually produced through the turbine and the battery for the original onset of the project. So I just like to, I guess, thank the federal government, make it knowing that we recognize they've played a huge part here. And then when we came to do our solar add-on here, this project, we were hit with huge barriers from SAS Power. So we had a 1 megawatt power purchase agreement. Our turbine is an 800 kilowatt turbine producing at a 32% capacity factor, which Chief said we were producing 660 kilowatts of energy annually. But we had a contract to sell them up to 1 megawatt. So there was 340 kilowatts of void there. So we applied to Natural Resources Canada, we applied to Western Economic Diversification. We said we want to add on extra equipment so that we can sell the full amount of our contract, because what I want to kind of just add in is the contract we have with SAS Power is much more lucrative than any of the new PPA that they're coming out with for solar now or wind now, because the price of renewables to develop have decreased so sharply. So we really wanted to make the most of this, and SAS Power was kind of like, whoa, what are you doing? How are we going to do this? And there was a lot of barriers and kind of red flags put up. But, when we had to, we called Chief in and we kind of said, no, you guys, we have this contract. What is preventing us from doing this? We want to add solar incrementally to get up, so we sell you a full 1 megawatt annually. So long story short, they said, okay, you can do it, but you got to pay us $800,000 to interconnect your site. And we just said, that ruins the business case. There is no economic way 340 kilowatts can pay for an $800,000 interconnection. And so we were pretty upset with SAS Power. What we did not realize was there were some behind-the-scenes conversations that had happened with Indigenous Services Canada and through the LEDSP program. And they said, SAS Power said, you should call INAC. I think they have some money. And I burst out laughing in their boardroom. I'm like, do you think it's that easy for a First Nation community to get access to $700,000, $800,000? They said, just make the call. And we did, and clearly there was people who believed in us as a nation and that we could get this project done, because within 48 hours we had a commitment of $700,000.
When was that call made?
October 31st of 2017.
Yeah, so Jane Philpott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that.
I'm gonna let her know.
Please let her know.
Yeah.
Yes, it was amazing. So it was really that enabled the project. It was Indigenous Services
48
Canada.
hours, that's unbelievable.
There
This
was
is a record for
we-
federal
I
government
agree.
funding.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think there was a culmination of a few things. SAS Power had set the stage with them behind
Yeah,
the
because
scenes.
they wanted to steal money.
Well, they wanted, yeah. Oh, yeah, we still think it was how to operate. They set the scene, they kind of got it approved, and then secondly, LEDSP, the particular program, had a huge, they weren't expended for the year, and we were coming at, the 3/4 of the way through the year, they had to expend their money. So the stars aligned. Would that ever happen again? Probably not.
That's pretty awesome.
So yeah, that was
Well, how
a
does
huge
that-
part of that.
I'm trying to understand, sorry for interrupting, but when you had the 1 megawatt contract, how was it going to hit the grid if they needed this intertie that cost $800,000?
So we negotiated out of it back then. But SaskPower's risk tolerances changed in the 5 years that we were operating, and they no longer said that we could interconnect in that way because it wasn't safe for their, and it boils down to a safety thing. They installed something called anti-islanding technology, so they have the ability to shut off our site. Not can only we can shut off the site, but they can shut us off if they are doing work on the line. So it actually boils down to safety of their workers. And at the end of the day, we can't question that, right?
They have the monopoly, so it's tough to question when you've got
Yes,
a corporation.
but they were prepared at one point to buy 1 megawatt power from you with no additional $800,000 expended, and
That's
suddenly they need $800,000 expended.
That's right.
So it was going to kill the project. ISC came to the table. Okay, now we can go, right?
Right.
The next thing that was the big thing was, okay, this infrastructure costs about 1.6 million in terms of the panels and everything else, the ancillary stuff. So our total project was about 2.6, the 800 plus the 1.6 in site work. And so for that, we had made application to Enercon, wasn't a fit, there wasn't enough uniqueness in it. Made application to Western Economic Diversification, and we hit 2 of their key criteria, one being Indigenous economic development, and the second one being innovation, in terms of completing the site and the R&D that we were going to do with the 2 different generation sources coming into the batteries. So we actually received $910,000 from Western Economic Development last year. So a total of 1.6 million in our just over 2 points, whatever project. Anyways, we were on the hook for about 600,000, of which we debt financed 500,000, and the remaining 200,000 was from our own source revenue that we had produced over the last few years through our PPA. So I guess the message I would just leave in all of that detail is that for a First Nation to get a project done, while we're rich with land and resources and people, we're not rich in cash to be able to go out and build projects. And so as the landscape is changing in renewable energies, we just saw the pricing that came out for the solar projects in Alberta. I think it was, what was it?
3 cents a kilowatt hour.
3 cents? Oh, I was thinking in the
3.9 cents a kilowatt hour.
and I was thinking it was in the $40 range. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
For a First Nation to come in and compete on economics when you have these big developers with a huge financial balance sheet to back them to go get the financing to get the deals done. We don't have that. And so here in Saskatchewan, the future, because we're not done here, like she said. So we've got this project developed and we're installed, and there's all sorts of challenges that came with it. But for us, this project has really created a sense of experience for us and established Cowessess as a credible business partner. And what that's enabled us to do is to go back to SaskPower and negotiate future utility-sized projects. This is not considered a utility-sized project. I mean, we're 1 megawatt, we're a drop in the bucket, right? But as some of you would be aware, the First Nations Power Authority it has set-asides to develop utility-scale solar. So SaskPower said, here's 20 megawatts of solar FNPA. You go procure the candidates, and you guys develop it through your First Nation members. And so because we are confident, because of what we've done here, what we've been able to share at a small scale, it set us up for success there. So in January, we were awarded a 10 megawatt project that we are going to build here by December of 2021. So
Awesome.
it's
10 megawatt, and is it
10 megawatt.
solar and wind, or just solar?
just solar.
Cool.
Good job.
Yeah, so that is
What is your existing,
Yeah.
what's your
No,
existing
please.
battery storage capacity here?
400 kilowatts.
Okay.
So that's a really big challenge for us. So we, our vision for this particular site was, we had the turbine. Okay, so now let's do a solar add-on. Okay, we've got that done. So we're still a small project, but we've established ourselves. We've got some credibility. Where are we going next? So we have a number of plays in renewable energy. The most immediate on our horizon is actually, you'll notice at the end of our array, there's some piles there without panels on them.
Yeah.
That's the last 100 kilowatts of equipment that's stored in the compound. We didn't have a contract with SaskPower to install all of the equipment we had. So we've been accepted to the Power Generator Partners Program. Just found out a month ago we can now install the last 100 kilowatts, and we have a mechanism to sell that to SaskPower. It's not a lucrative contract at all, but we're going to do it because we have the equipment pre-bought. So that's the next immediate thing on our horizon. Following that, I'm working with Elemental Energy out of, actually they're out of Vancouver. They've done a lot of hydro projects and solar. They're the group that has the big solar project, the 17 meg solar project at Brooks on the #1 highway. So they are our development partners for our 10 megawatt project. So we're just in the project planning phases right now. And we anticipate SAS Power to be making an announcement within the next 4 weeks about those projects and who the proponents are. So that's where our planning efforts are. But that's not where it stops for Cowessess. At this site, we have a bigger vision. And that is, we actually own all the land from just north of this power line here, all the way down to the grid road where our store is, which you can see off in the distance there. We would like to create an industrial business park down around our store, 80 to 100 acres. And we would like to develop the remaining 200 acres into renewable energy. And so the vision is, can we create an actual green industrial park that's powered by the renewable energy we're producing here. So we're years. That's like a 10 to 15 year vision for us. But what are we doing now to work towards that? And one of the things that we've chatted about is how can we incorporate more storage as part of that play, right? SAS Power indicates that storage is a huge part of where they need to get to be able to make renewable energy reliable for the grid, but they have no active storage plans, nor do they have R&D budget to go and do it because the provincial government coffers are so tight right now that they're not investing in R&D. And so we're saying to them, SAS Power, partner with Cowessess First Nation, let's go approach NRCan, let's go approach other federal pools and see if a utility combined with a First Nation doing this unique project could actually garner the attention to get utility-sized storage happening here. And so we've thrown the idea and the concept over the fence at them, and they're saying, okay, well first let's just get your contract signed first for the 10 megs, and then we'll start talking about that. So that's something though that we have it here, but we're just not there yet in terms of contracting and bringing all the people to the table. But that is the longer term vision for us at this location. Just an aside, separate from this, we have a couple other renewable plays. One is happening on the reserve. You guys would be aware of the Low Carbon Economy Fund, which just had their partnership stream close last Friday. So we've made an application to that federal program to get community-based solar on the reserve, so to offset the power consumption of 6 of our abandoned buildings with solar power. So fingers crossed if there's any nudging anybody can do, but I'm sure it's a very defined process, but we have our application into there.
Nice.
So if I have a copy of your application, I can
Sure.
make sure I deliver it to the minister who makes a decision and that kind of stuff.
That would
Much
be
appreciated.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm a very good delivery person. I sit in the same room with them. I just have to walk around.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And some of your colleagues in Ottawa have come here as well.
Good.
Ralph has been here a few
Yes,
times.
good.
His backyard, as well as Minister Sohi.
Yes.
He came here when he was Natural Resources.
Yes.
He was here in the fall, was it? In the fall. So
He's still natural resources now.
He is,
was,
okay.
He was infrastructure, then he went to natural resources. So yeah, lovely man.
Oh yes, he
Yes,
was so
average,
good.
very nice man. But Ralph is strong because it's his riding area, and he's such a powerful minister. But I can bug them anyway.
No, thank you. No, I just want to let you know, it just didn't have to say that.
Who else? What other MPs have been here to see this?
I think
That's
that's it.
Yeah.
Ralph was here for our opening.
No sign of Andrew Shear?
Why not?
Just checking.
Scott Moe hasn't been here yet?
Wow.
Eating meeny, miny, mo?
Nor have we invited them.
Oh!
You should see if he comes out.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Well,
He needs
that's-
education.
Power policy issues have been a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
Those of us who do it on our farms, it's almost not worth it, because it's all credit, there's no feed-in tariff, right? And so you take all the investment risk, and of course without carbon pricing, if there's carbon pricing, SAS Power could invest millions into these transitions. And they could also give people who aren't producing carbon a rebate.
It's very tough, SAS Power. They set their goal, but yet they're putting too much their own challenges in front of them. Like by 2030, they want to be 50% renewable.
That's what they say.
You know, and Jessica and Rook and the team, they would be in the office with all of these, the bureaucrats and the top senior management. There was times they called me to call the president just because of the red tape stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the role I played a lot of this, and you know, I'm out in these areas schmoozing and you know just doing that political stuff, but at the same time reminding them that we're your solution here. Like,
Yeah.
we're just trying to help
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
And so that it's, but you know, one thing SAS Power does do, and you know, we're always looking to find the, you know, the good things as well, is they have in all of their contracts now, 3 things for First Nations. They say Aboriginal. You could, what's your employment of Aboriginal people in your contract? Is there a 50% or more ownership of Aboriginal in your project? And who is your Aboriginal partner? And so, you know, a lot of these projects that are being bid, they're scrambling for First Nations to come and partner with them. But then what you get is you get the feather in the hat First Nations, where they're just gonna get token, kind of the token Indian style. But you know, here for Cowessess, we get the phone call quite a bit, and we always just say, well, we wanna be a true partner. We want to, you know, so SAS Power is making it mandatory that, you know, you partner with Aboriginal as they use in the province. And so it puts some options out there, but again, it could be a little challenging at the same time.
Okay, two quick questions. First of all, is there some kind of an umbrella organization among Indigenous people? Like, I know Patrick Mitchell at Kanaka Power, I know the people at Bolshena, and Patrick's playing almost all the power from Merit now. But that was an early deal with BC Hydro when Hydro were paying premium. So Patrick's like, you know, we're going to make a ton of money out of this. It's a really good deal. Bolshena are trying to put up, I think it's a 4.8 megawatts of solar power. But Hydro are now saying, we don't want to accept any feed-in stuff from anybody over and above what their current consumption is, right? Because they still think of themselves as the primary generator. So 2 questions. Is there some kind of a grouping where you're talking to each other? Because Patrick's a hell of a guy. And a second question, are SAS Power reconfiguring and looking at themselves as a utility for distribution, as distinct from a utility for generation? Does that shift come? Because it's going to come at some point.
I can answer your second question easily and say no. You know, like, I don't know if you want to talk about FNPA.
Yeah, like, well, the first part of that, we aren't working with any other national or First Nations across Canada. We're an independent band, nor are we part of a tribal council here, and what we found is we can be the most effective as we run on our own because we're not held back by anybody else, and we don't get caught up in some of that bureaucracy, and so we think that's a benefit for us in some ways, but maybe it's a detriment because we could be having some more lessons learned, and so definitely we welcome the conversations. The second part there is SAS Power looking at more being just a distribution and less of a generation company? I would say no. The only difference is they will still continue to provide base load, but the kind of peaking they're going to IPPs for. So right now on their books, there's 1,600 megawatts of wind that they anticipate to procure by 2030, all through IPPs, for which we have 2 partnerships with 2 different IPPs in 2 different locations in Saskatchewan, where we have TLE land that Councillor Rook bought back when they were chief, and we are bidding in those sites now. So we are, as Cadmus mentioned, when an IPP comes to the province and they want to partner with a First Nation, we've partnered with them to be equity partners on their developments of 200 megawatt sites that'll be bid into the next round of SAS Power. So we bid into the last round, that was awarded, when was that awarded? September? We weren't successful, so we're gonna bid in. We're just gonna keep bidding in those same sites for the next 6 rounds until we're successful, and we know we're gonna be by the end of the 6 rounds. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's just interesting to see utilities kind of around the world resisting the fact that there's going to be point sources of power everywhere, way cheaper than what they can do with their centralized sources. And still sticking with the old world. They've all got, billions of dollars in debt that they can't amortize anymore. Anyways, it's interesting.
You know, one thing Cowessess is walking away from this is we're open to the idea of partnership. You know, we have our own values, we have our own our own characteristics that we think very highly of. But if your friend in Merit or someone else comes to us, we're always open to an understanding. So, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did. You said 1.5 or 5.0 for how much that SAS Power wants to put forward for renewable energy.
By 2030?
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
50.
But they still have more fossil planned than renewable.
Yeah.
There's 350 megawatts going online natural gas at Swift Current this year, and there's 60 in solar going on by 2021.
And didn't they cut the program recently for that people inside Regina, that if they want to have renewable energy, if they want to have their own solar panels and stuff like that, and they could pay back into the grid?
They changed it in November.
Yeah.
It's the same 20%, but they're capping it, the next certain number of megawatts installed, no more people can get it, or the deadline is in about 2 years.
Yeah.
But people who want to do it should install sooner than later in case the cap is hit, because a few big projects and it'll reach pretty quickly.
Well, let's go in,
Yeah.
let's go to, and maybe,
Like popped in the back.
oh, please, go.